Hey everybody, welcome to Discussing Tabletop. It is, of course, October 12th, 2015. This is episode, I believe, 129 of our ongoing series of, hey, let's talk about tabletop. That's a good way of saying it.
Yes.
Why don't we dive right into it? Well, you know, how's your week been going, Joe?
Busy. Gearing up for Sunday.
Yeah. We'll talk about that at the end of the show.
I know.
But
I'm just saying.
Been a busy week for myself too. I hope everybody has been having a great one. Nothing really new in the tabletop front. In fact, I think I only play. Well, we'll talk about what I only played, but I only played one game this week. But anyway, we can avoid some chit chat for now until we get into some actual topics, because we do have topics to talk about today.
Topics? Oh no!
I know topics. I want to talk about Unsanctioned. It's another unset, but not quite a set for magic, so it's a different direction for their stuff. So that's a thing to talk about. We do have an arcana that came out, Cleric, druid, wizard. That's always fun to talk about. Another thing that came out under the radar, wizards directly was Locathah Rising. Is an adventure for a 5th edition adventure for 9th level characters plus rules for playing one. Just randomly without much fanfare. Age of Dirt, an interesting game available wizkids. So we want to talk. And Horrified, Universal Monsters. Well, that's there. It's a Universal Monsters board game.
It's fitting for the we're in.
It is. And the final thing I do want to talk about is a new anime that's out. That's with board games. Yeah, we'll go into that in more detail once we're getting to that topic. I'll dive into that. If any of you are familiar with the rest of my YouTube channel, I do have an entire series on adapting various animes. Anime in Bessem, the role-playing game based on anime. So this is an odd one because. What would I do in that game? Would I have you like games? Would that be like an RPG where you're playing games for the RPG?
Yes.
Anyway, but let's start with magic, because this is an odd direction, because we've seen now 3 of their unsets: Unhinged, Unglued, and I'm forgetting the latest one.
Oh God, Unhinged, Unglued,
I'm unstable.
Unstable.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I remember way back, like when the first Unglued and then Unhinged came out, you know, in our younger days.
Yeah.
Being so excited about them because, you know, they were really weird and bizarre, and, you know, you technically can't play with them in a legal fashion.
Yeah.
You know, tournament-wise or anything. So it's like, ooh, these are odd. They're fun cards, but they're more fun to just talk about and look at than actually
play
because you're not going to really use them in a normal deck.
No, at most you're going to use them in.
You might make an undeck and, you know,
play it for fun with some people.
As an undeck, play it for fun.
Yeah.
But it's not something like you're going to whip out all the time like, this is my go-to deck.
Granted, like, I will say there are some cards in them that if you're not playing any actual, like, format, you could probably use. Like, we had a friend who had a ape deck that there's a one, I think it was Unhinged card that was really good for apes. And, you know, allowed you to make a lot of ape tokens. So it was great. It was helpful in that retrospect. But it was not legal in any sense of the word. For fun, I don't think any of us minded having it in there, because it was kind of silly, you know? It was just like it was a mechanic that helped. It was supposed to be like 2 apes having more apes, you know, having sex. So it was like, tap 2 apes to make an ape kind of thing, is what the ability it gave.
Oh, 8-beat baby.
Which, if we compare with some token granting things, that's not bad for some token things. There's like there's the goddamn goblin that's tap double your goblins. I mean, there really is. So when you have it like you have it tap 2 apes, create an ape, that's not a bad mechanic.
No.
In comparison to some token grand direction. So that's another thing that I never minded him using in the deck. So it's little things like that that mean that some of the mechanics actually can work. But again, not legal.
Right.
But that's like creating one card out of many when you're talking about the sets. And like, you know, people talked about doing unstable drafts and stuff when it came out, which is neat. I would never do that kind of thing, you know. It's just not in me. Like, I find it, you know, it's like you said, it's more interesting just to kind of have it and collect it.
If I had the money to just throw out there and wanted to do something fun, I could see doing the draft thing, but Magic's not as cheap as it used to be.
Yeah.
And I'm an adult now and actually need to spend money on adult things more often than I can on...
Yeah, well, I think it's that they come out with too many products now, rather than they have changed in price. Because the price is relatively the same. It's still like $4. True. I think the packs were a little cheaper originally. But
I think it's more that I had more cash that I didn't... Disposable income than I do now.
Yeah, so...
In an odd way, even though I made less, I didn't have as many bills.
Yeah, and that's what happens with people, so that we have to pick and choose what we get when we're coming to Magic. For this one, it's interesting because, okay, so first off, it's going to be released on Leap Day, February 29th in 2020. Yep. Kind of neat there. It's 30-card, pre-constructed monocolored decks, synergized with each other in unique and surprising ways, they say, with reprints from previous unsets and 16 new cards. And also this kind of wrestling match flavor they go for. Okay. Haha.
Haha, I'm going to wrestle with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of see that with the weird ogre versus squirrel artwork they have at the bottom of the announcement page.
Yeah.
With a chicken referee.
Yeah. Yeah. So the entire idea...
bad for that ogre's nose.
Yeah, the entire idea is that players combine 2 decks into one 60-card deck, and that's why they synergize with each other, is that you basically are playing 2 colors. But you have to then buy 2 of them. Are they going to be a price that's reasonable for a 30-card deck, or are they going to be closer to what you could get a 60-card deck with in a lot of the old days? I'm sorry, for $10, you can get like one of the Planeswalker decks or something similar to that, or close to $10 for 60 cards plus.
Right.
Normally. So is this going to be like $5? Maybe $7 at most?
Well, what it probably is going to be, I'm thinking, is you know how they'll sell the dual decks?
They can sell 2 at a time?
They might do something like that.
But that might not work, though, because there's supposed to be only 5 of them. So how are you going to do that unless it's like a random combination of them and you just have to buy a combination of them? I don't know. There's a lot to this that's questionable because of the idea of just it being a 30-card deck that you're supposed to combine 2 of them. That's a neat idea.
Yeah.
And apparently like 3 in every deck, 1 in all the decks, is designed for Commander. Does that mean it's going to be Commander legal? Because Unstuff has never been legal in any other format. So are these specifically going to be? Because if it's designed with Commander or Cube in mind, Commander is an actual format. Cube is like just a way of playing. I'm not as familiar with it. I know of it. But like, I don't know. There's a lot of this that I'm very questioning of. There were some other things that, like, I was seeing coming out relatively recently, and some other things that I've seen announced that have also filled me with question about Magic products, and they're, like, a little bit of feasibility But, like, this is another one that, when I saw it coming up, I had to kind of talk about this one. Now, there's another thing that was announced the exact same time that we know even less about, and that's why we're not talking about it. But of course, these are very recent announcements, too, last couple of days. There's a mystery booster available at tournaments now.
Ooh.
A convention booster, they call it. A mystery booster. What is it? And apparently people won't know until MagicFest Richmond in November. But it's like a weird little thing, and I'm like, this doesn't really fill me with, like, interest about this. This is like, what are you doing? Are you going to charge too much about this? Does it cost the same as a normal booster, or will it become some kind of, like, MagicFest exclusive? Which, if it's an exclusive that is just, like, little things that make it that you want to go to one of these conventions, because they are trying to make them more conventions than rather just, you know, tournaments.
Right.
Which is really what they are. They call it the convention edition. They want it to be a convention. It's unusual things like that. So that's why I'm filled with a little dread about this. And I haven't even brought in the fact that, like, they came out with, like, a bra product recently too, or, like, announced it. That, dude, what the heck do people talk about bra anymore for?
Right.
It's something they try to do, and I'm like, I think that was Battle Bond, which was the entire idea of Brawl as a format, and they're trying to push it some more.
They are doing a lot of random things, I think, and I don't know if it's just to try to boost sales, to try to stay more relevant.
Well, the Brawl thing, it's the Throne of Eldraine Brawl decks.
Right.
I saw some other Magic folks on YouTube talking about it, and it was an interesting thing to learn about how, like, it's not, they're not bad as things you could buy for other stuff. But, like, the warning was, it's a lot of artificial inflation for kind of the stuff that's in them. So, like, value is a question mark.
Right.
And how you're going to use the cards. And I think, though, when we get back to Unsanctioned, there comes the problem of, beyond playing just unsanctioned games, where the hell are you going to use them? What,
right.
You know, and the fact is, it's only 16 new cards out of 150 they're printing together here. 16! That's not a lot of new stuff. It's pretty much reprints.
Yeah. That is true.
Yeah. So, I don't know. They have the new basic land. So if you're into basic land porn, which, I mean, truthfully speaking, that's one of those things that I always did like, but I never went out of my way for it. It's when I was putting basic lands into a deck. Hey, let's have different ones, like combinations of them. I always thought it was neat. And so they've got their new art style for basic lands that they're putting in there. So I think that's something that's not part of those 16. But
right.
Still, I don't know.
It's weird.
Yes. That's a great way of saying it's weird. I'm just worried about the price point, too. I think that's the big thing that I'm concerned about.
I mean, we have to see what they do with that. I mean, if they keep it that it's like half the price of a normal 60-card deck, then it's fine.
Well, they don't have the MSRP anymore?
Right.
Which I did actually learn recently, that if you want to look for an MSRP for Magic products, go to one of the big box stores, like a Target or a Walmart, because apparently they have those there. They have to have those there. So while Magic doesn't officially put it out, I'm not sure if it's Magic or one of those stores that puts it out personally, but that's where you can find one of the basic, like, price ideas for these things.
Right.
So I don't know. And that's the thing, is how much will this product be available at one of those, where we might have a little bit more control on price? Or are we going to worry about this into, like, at a local game store? I don't think spending $10 on a 30-card deck is worth it, ever. I'm sorry. Like, when it's like $25 for, like, the 100-card decks of Commander, those are usually worth it, because they usually have a very good selection of rares and mythics and stuff that make them a pretty powerful, enticing thing. Most of the time.
Right.
And then, like, the pre-constructed decks, or like you're saying, like the $20 dual decks, when they were doing those a lot. Yeah, they were 2 decks. They were 2 60-card decks. You were getting 120 cards. Now you're getting 30, of which they're not really necessarily saying. It's 5 30-card decks. But the thing is, aren't 10 of them lands? So you're really getting 20 cards? You're effectively getting a little bit more than a booster pack.
Yeah. True.
They say combine them into 60-card decks. That tells me that, yes, 10 of these are lands.
Yeah, so... Didn't even think about that, but yeah, that's...
Yeah. So...
That sucks.
Yeah, no. It's... How much can they charge for it that it makes sense, and that it's not too much? And how much can they charge it that won't ruin the idea of an unset? I don't know. This is an interesting gamble with the idea of a property that's had trouble. I think that the first 2 didn't go as well as were probably wanted, and that's why we didn't get a 3rd one for a very long time. It wasn't until, like, the Magic market necessarily bounced back and got to a really good place, which it's been sort of at. I worry that they're burning bridges more than they should.
Yeah.
Anyway. There's a lot of complaints about Magic lately that we've kind of been talking about, that I feel like their base sets are very good, and they've kept with that good bit for their base sets, but I worry that a lot of the other products they're making are not necessarily good for them. Maybe short term, but I don't know about long term. Like the only one I had that I think I had a positive argument about, because it would have made the profits that maybe Hasbro wanted, and it was not something in my wheelhouse, would be that premium deck we talked about that was really expensive. I didn't think it was worth it to get, but it sold out, so I'm sure people wanted it.
Yeah. Enough people who had money wanted it.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyway.
We'll have to see what they do with it.
That definitely, it's good. This is a watch one, but just the announcement and the information been given just makes me a little worried. Anyway. Why don't we move on, though, because we do have some more topics to talk about, and I want to talk about some unearthed arcana.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't know, D&D is the other Wizards property that, it just necessarily doesn't work on me ever. I always find it like, oh yay, I'm happy about this.
Well, yeah, unearthed arcanas, in general, I have found come up with some good ideas. And they have shown that, some of this stuff has come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
They've come out with actual classes and stuff out of these, so it's a great testing ground.
Give me a second here. I was having a little bit of choppiness. I'm going to start
servers,
because that might be the issue. Or it might be... Oh, God. Why? I think I got to restart my system when we're done the show here. Because I'm getting...
Well, we're still on East. Do you want me to switch us out of East?
I'm switching it over now. What I was saying is that my system has been a little bit of weird lately. So that's why I was thinking of maybe I need to like restart it. Uh-oh.
Oh, let's see what happens. Oh, nope, he's back.
Yes, that's on my end. That's something on my end that I'm.
I was just saying we might have to pause the show for a moment because your boxes at the moment that are circling.
No,
and then you came back.
No, it's I don't know. It's just this little something on my system's end that seems to be working up. So hopefully.
That's okay. I came home the other day and my internet working. I had to restart. Finally, I restarted.
Wow. So yeah, I'm just trying to shut down a lot of things.
Back to some unearthed arcana.
Yeah.
So the one that I really like the most is the Twilight Domain for Cleric. Because they got Twilight Domain, they got Druids, for Druids they got Circle of Wildfire, which is very interesting. And then for Sorcerer, or Wizards, I'm sorry, they have Onomancy, which goes into the lore of knowing, something's true name and getting power over it by knowing that.
Yeah,
that is a lore, a real reality lore based thing.
Yeah, the idea of
that if you know something's true name, you can exert control over it. It's in the mythology, like with demons and other creatures that you can exert control over them by knowing their true name.
Yeah.
So I think all three are really interesting, but for Cleric, I really like the Twilight Domain. And I can see it useful in a lot of different campaigns because you're getting like at first level Eyes of the Night, where you're getting basically magical dark vision. You can let's see, as an action, you can magically give the benefit of this to any number of creatures you can see within 10 feet of you. The shared benefit lasts for 10 minutes. You can extend this benefit with a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier. And it lets you see in the deepest gloom. You have dark vision with no maximum range. You can see in dim light as it were bright light, and darkness as it were dim.
Okay, so I'm just going to quickly say I found the problem in my computer, and I don't know why it was like this, but something in Firefox was taking up 5 million kilobytes, or whatever, K.
Okay.
So that's why I was at, like, the CPU, the physical memory was at, like, 92. It's down to 31 because I got rid of that. I don't know what it was. It's gone. My computer's working again. Why?
There's something running in the background.
Something in Firefox, which I probably just opened for the show, was going weird.
Yeah. Okay.
But you may return to talking about the wonders of...
you were able to hear all of it, right?
Yes, that you were talking about the things. That unfortunately, I got to able to hear talking about Twilight Domain.
Yeah, I was talking about the Eyes of the Night. I think that's awesome, and especially that you can extend it to the whole party. Yeah, that can be really useful in a lot of situations, and you're getting that at first level.
Yeah, no, that's a pretty good one. And it's like there are races that get dark vision, but there's a bunch of them that don't, and it's dark vision with no max range.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. You're getting it with no max range. That's a big difference. Mm-hmm. And you can see in dim light as if it was bright. That's cool. And darkness as if it was dim, but so you're gonna actually even get some color with your dark vision.
I like the idea that you can also give advantage on initiative rolls. Just hey, here you go.
Blessing. It's we're gonna go rest of the night. Hey, you're on one of the watches. I'm gonna give you advantage.
Mm-hmm. And it's there. It's not a limited number. It's yes, you can only use it one at a time. So you can be this person's getting advantage on the next initiative. But you can switch that at any time to another person being oh, no, now you probably should have it. I'm switching over to you.
Right. So even with a long rest, you could be okay, just wake me up when the next person takes their shift. I'll switch it over and go back to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got the Sanctuary, which is awesome. Twilight Sanctuary.
As your channel divinity, yeah.
Yeah. You can choose on what benefit they get. You can either get a D8 temporary hit points, or end one effect causing them to be charmed or frightened.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice. It's cool. But some of the stuff beyond that, you're getting Steps of the Brave. You have advantage on saving throws against being frightened. If you're in dim light or darkness, you can use a bonus action to give yourself flying speed equal to your walking speed until the end of your next turn.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, hey, I can go and fly that way. So I think that's cool. Divine Strike is nice. Midnight Shroud. You can harness shrouding power of night to protect you and your allies, and stymie your foes. Whenever you cast darkness using a spell slot, you can choose a number of creatures that you can see, including yourself, equals to your wisdom modifier, minimum of 1. The chosen creature can see through the darkness, so that's nice. You can use darkness, and it doesn't affect your teammates.
Yeah, that can actually be really beneficial in a battle. That's why you're like, well, that's a 17th level ability. Why is that so good? Well, I can just constantly be using darkness in every battle and being like, hey, we can all see in it, but our enemies, guess what? There's very few things that have the ability to see through magical darkness.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We're completely shrouded all the time. You can't see us. We can see you.
Yep. And that's really the point of it.
Yeah.
The druid one, the Circle of Wildfire, is interesting, I think I have to say about it.
It's almost like a version of an entropy druid.
Yeah. Because, you have to make a save or take damage when you summon your wildfire spirit and use that in place of your wild shape. Okay, so it's like you're summoning a creature that, either to use your wild shape again, it reduces 0 hit points or lasts for an hour.
Yeah. You're summoning a small elemental.
That you can
use small fire elemental that is like, hey,
that you can use your bonus action to do stuff with, and it's not bad. It's just I don't know that the 2d10 possible damage is worth it. Is the only problem about this that I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, there's that. I mean, the one ability that I really like out of it is the 10th level ability of Flames of Fire, and that's more or Flames of Life, which is more, I think it's flavorfully satisfying.
Yeah.
When a creature can see, touch. There we go. You gain the ability to turn death into flames of vitality. When a small or larger creature that you can see dies within 30 feet of your wildfire spirit, you can cause primal flames to spring from the body, and any creature that touches it can heal for 2d10 plus your wisdom modifier. So it's like their death bursts into life
or takes fire damage. That's what they say. Your choice. Yeah. So it's basically like when something would touch the flame, you'd be like, that enemy now has flames in it, and it's like that. Like one of your allies could be like, I'm going to quickly touch it, and be like, I gain healing. Or like if an enemy runs into that square, they would burn, and you could have them deal fire damage. So it's sort of like it's now the place where this thing fell. It's now a spot where you get stuff either positive or positive both ways, positive to your team either way.
I think that's kind of interesting flavor-wise, but overall, I'm neutral on it.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. It's interesting. And the true name stuff is cool because of the idea of the true name stuff, which is what, again, as you said, is a thing in a type of magic that people do talk about.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting. I could see having a studied wizard character who's just obsessed with names.
Yeah.
And uses that to his ability.
Nope.
You know, I think that's a very interesting character, and it'll work. And you know, it's an interesting twist on the magic of, okay, this guy, you know, maybe you didn't actually study magic as in depthly, but you studied the meanings and origins of names and have learned how to use that to control things.
Yeah.
You know, it's a different kind of wizard, which I find fascinating.
And it definitely opens up, like, it's an interesting flavor in comparison to some of the other flavors, I think. It's, like, not that I can bust the other arcane traditions, but the other arcane traditions are basically, like, necromancer, you know, enchanter,
I think it's something completely new.
Yes.
It's not like a twist on something that already existed.
Which, that's a lot of them are the twist on a school of magic. This is like, hey, it's all about names, you know, and control, like Bane and Bless, and, you know, things you can do through names. And they have, like, an entire list of things you can do through names, which are famous. Like the Resident Utterance, which you start with 2 and gain more of them, which, like, you know, absorption, devastation, dissolution, nullification, puppetry, sympathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a really interesting new twist on magic, and I would love to see this in action at some point.
And I like the idea that, like, also, like, you could, if I used the true name stuff and I learned, like, oh, that's Red Dragon we're fighting. I used it on it. Oh, I can fireball it. Oh, now it does force or psychic damage to that creature in particular.
Yeah,
you know,
I think that's cool because you basically bypass their damage because you have more control over it by knowing its true name.
Yeah, you bypass its defenses and are just like, schwack. So no, it has a lot of interesting flavor to it, and it sounds pretty cool. So I kind of like the onomancy.
Yeah, onomancy.
Yeah, it's a cool one. I think it's interesting enough that I would like to try it out more. Again,
right.
I think that one and the Cleric domain, the Twilight domain you were talking about, are the big ones. The Circle of Wildfire, interesting, but for me, again, like, I think that one's kind of. I agree with you. That's the weakest of these 3.
So. Yeah. You know, and that's going to happen.
Yeah, like, I feel like there are some.
Everything is going to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I feel like I was going to say some of them are there. They always hit with all of them. This one is just one of the ones that's like, well, it's not really a hit.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, but it's not as good as some of the stuff they've done.
True. So, they could always develop it more, make it more interesting. We'll have to see.
Yeah.
Again, it's an unearthed arcana. Works on it. Do we want to move on to the next one, which is the okay. I call these guys Lakeless, but they're really Lacalaths or something.
Mm-hmm.
Are really what they're supposed to be, but I pronounce these guys wrong. They're a type of fish folk. They're not. They're. I don't think they're. It's like Kuatoa and Sogwagan.
Sogwagan. I always want to say Sangwai.
I mispronounce their name awful every time. Also, it's another one of those ones of like, I will pronounce this right someday. Probably not today. They're definitely things I mispronounce a lot. So the thing is you can check out what the stats for playing a Lackalith are on D&D Beyond. They're up on D&D Beyond. So if you want to actually just go and check those out right now, you can. But the actual content here is stats on playing a Lackalith and an adventure for 9th level characters that should be Lackaliths. So that's why it's $10 for an adventure, seemingly just PDF form and a race build, which again, let me check if you can actually just access it fully on D&D Beyond, because I saw it there, and I don't know if I clicked on it completely. They might have it that you have to buy it. You know, they say that a lot of times, that they say, you should buy this. Yeah, no, they say you should buy it. So...
You should buy it.
So apparently they're a peaceful species, and it's like the entire story is like when they're pushed to conflict, normally, which they want to are, you know, and you're going to be the heroes that rise from them. Sorry, just... It's interesting. Fish folk. Yes. I don't know about, like, playing them in...
They look like a catfish.
They kind of do.
Legs.
They kind of do.
Does that mean D&D is catfishing us?
What? These are probably the most catfish of all the ones that, like, pictures of it. Like, the 3rd edition picture of them, they looked very different. They looked a lot more like, you know, like monster-y. And then the 2nd edition, they were just like, I'm a manfish. And the 1st edition is just childish, because 1st edition was just weird. A lot of the pictures, if you look at 1st edition pictures, you're just gonna be interested. Yeah, no, like, the sneaking out the abilities to play one, like, just out of nowhere was interesting for them, because it's like there were no announcements, and I looked on Wizards' site under their news, and nothing about when the date came out. They've been sneaking out stuff into the DM's Guild a couple of times now. And I don't know what. It's like, I would have expected them to be at least announcing some of this stuff more.
Right.
But, you know, they've got a whole bunch of stuff on there from themselves that, like, some of them, yeah, like, if I look at the latest on the DM's Guild and go back, the plane ship Ixalan, which came out last year around this time, and we talked about it, was one that they actually, like, had announcements for. After that, the majority of the stuff just sort of was put out at some point in time. And it's directly from Wizards, but when the crap do you talk about it that you're doing this? You're just like, right. Sneak. You know, sneak. I don't know if they're just, like, not really talking, like, they're just not talking about it. I guess that's the way. They're just not talking about the stuff they put on DM's Guild. They just do it. And I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing for them. This is an interesting little adventure. That's one of those things of popularity. Like, before it was, like, big on playing goblin characters. Using a good example here, Paizo, Pathfinder. They did Weeby Goblins, which was an adventure which introduced the idea of playing a goblin and gave a goblin adventure. And it was very popular. So I could see something like that being pushed out here. And this is an example.
Right.
But there was, like, no fanfare at all. It was just sort of like, yeah, here's something.
Yeah, it's kind of like a bit of like, hey, we're just throwing this here for no reason. But here you go.
Like, the ones that are just little adventures, I can kind of pass those off because they don't really introduce a lot. This includes a playable race. I'm sorry. You think you'd have at least a little more talking about it there because it's a playable race.
Right. I completely agree. But for some reason, they decided not to.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, they're just... Again, it's just they're quiet about some stuff. And we'll just have to see more about what's going on with it. Agreed. I just would like them to at least, like, on their site, like, say, like, hey, we're throwing this out on Dungeon Masters Guild. Because it is something from Wizards. You know, even if they don't throw it into, like, products, just like an announcement somewhere. Maybe they announced it on their Twitter, which I should check more often, I guess, then, but there's a lot of stuff on their Twitter that's nothing to do with what we talk about on the show. So it's kind of hard to, like, page through, like, weeks of junk, which takes quite a while. I would like, you know, not that it's not important stuff to Wizards. That's what I'm going to say on that one. But it's not the announcements I'm looking for.
These are not the announcements you're looking for.
Exactly. So, but if you want to play a Fishman, and you like the Locathah, is it really?
I am not 100% sure.
Yes, it was Locathah. I call them Legolas all the time. They're not Legolas. That's completely incorrect pronunciation of their names. I started bastardizing it long ago.
I'm going to call them Bob.
Sanguhagen, the Sanguian, and the Kuatoa. These are all really badly pronounced on my end, and I confess to it, and I don't care. Their names are stupid. Their names are dumb.
Their names are difficult.
Their names are too difficult. Why did you make difficult names? There are other things. Flumph! Flumph is a wonderful name. Cloaker! They're dumb, but you can pronounce them! Anyway, enough of my ranting about Zorn! It's a Z one! I can pronounce it! Remoraz! I don't think I'm pronouncing that one correctly. I might be. The Remoraz?
Maybe.
Anyway, but Locathah Rising. It's available now. Apparently it came out with their Extra Life campaign too. They put it out as part of like some kind of even charity thing. God. You know, it maybe part of this goes to charity. Do we know that? No! That's just even worse! Why don't you tell us this, Wizards? More people should get it if it's connected to charity. That's good. You could raise more money. Stop being...
Fantas, tell us how you really feel.
It's available now. God damn it, Wizards. You can get the PDF now. So, how about we move on to something else? I want to talk about Age of Dirt.
Age of Dirt.
Yeah, it's...
We love to play in the dirt here.
Just to go along with the entire idea of the unstuff that we're getting from Wizards and Magic, it's a game about uncivilization.
I'm uncivilized.
Well, I mean, I wasn't going to say anything, but I wasn't going to say anything. So it's a worker placement game. You're a chief of prehistoric clan. You're like a chief of Neanderthals. You're going to be the best in the valley. You collect resources to build your crazy inventions. So like the square instead of the wheel, I guess, something? I don't know. I feel like that would be appropriate to this, but maybe they actually are like crazy inventions that would work like the wheel. But I feel like the square, you're going to travel on that. Or the hexagon or something. I don't know.
Maybe it's a square wheel.
It's a square. It's not a wheel. Whatever, yes. That was the joke.
Is it a square circle?
Uh-huh. And your workers aren't intelligent. They're forgetful, lazy, and unreliable. And you have to make sure that they do their job, collect their resources, so that you can spend them to do your stuff. And apparently there's a passage, a tower which you drop meeples into, and you see they come out the bottom, or they can get stuck. Anyway, we might have talked about this before a little bit.
I think we did a little bit, because this sounds familiar.
The initial announcement came out, I think we talked about it.
Yeah.
Which was a while ago. But it's out now. So you can check out, I think, yep, you can check out the full rules. They have the downloadable rules PDF, because WizKids is good at that. And thank you for that, WizKids. 2 to 5 players, 14 plus, 40 minutes to play, they say. So give it about an hour for your first time playing, at least, maybe longer. $50 for the game, but it's got a lot of little, like, things that are more objects, so of course it's going to play more, like towers, and little, like...
little swords, it looks like, or clubs.
Spears, drumstick, drums, a torch, the box areas, which are, like, you build them.
Resource cubes, cards.
Yeah, 80 resource tokens. Which these resource tokens, some of them look very similar to Everdell. I'm just going to say, berries, wood, stone there. Maybe they have herbs and fur differently, but 3 of those.
Well, I mean, it also makes me think of the one caveman game that we played on tabletop too.
Stone Age?
Stone Age.
Yes. So, I mean, there's a... Oh, God.
But it's, like, kind of turned on its head to be more of a... We're poking fun at it.
Yeah. I'd like how they do show out how to punch out the cardboard pieces and put them together in the rules. They're like, look, this is how you put them together. Don't be dumb.
I'm dumb. Dumb.
I couldn't figure out how to put this together, and it seems so simple. 8-page rules, not too bad for rules.
Well, you are playing an uncivilized game. Maybe you're uncivilized yourself.
Maybe. So, I mean, again, I think we talked about it a little bit before on the show. I don't remember when. Probably was first announced.
Yeah, I think it was a few months ago when it was first announced about it, and
yeah,
now it's official.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just... yeah, it's available now, local game store, online, etc. So, you know, they have their links to buying it officially. But it was one of those worker placement games with just a little bit of humor and the unusual things you had to build, so it kind of stood out for me as something interesting and a little different.
Right.
So, definitely wanted to go on and hit about it again now that it's out. So, Age of Dirt. Hey, let's talk about something that we haven't ever talked about. The Universal Monsters, and that it's something that exists. I feel very Monster Squad with this one. Monster Squad. Because you have to kick Wolfman in the nads.
Oh no! Not Wolfman.
Yeah. Wolfman doesn't have any. Just do it. Wolfman's got nads. That's all I remember. That's the main thing I remember of that movie is they, like, you know, just do it, and they kicked him. It's like, Wolfman's got nads.
You know what's harder to do?
Uh-huh.
Kicking the invisible man in the nads.
So, so this is
like, on that note.
Yes, this is a cooperative game that's apparently against the world famous monsters. It's a village is under attack by, like, Dracula, Mummy, Frankenstein's monster, his bride, and more of them are on the rampage. You're a team of heroes that must defeat them. Every monster's unique challenge, and you can adjust the difficulty playing against a group of adversaries every game. And you have to do it before the horror overwhelms you. So this is Ravensburg Games came out with this. It's kind of interesting the fact that they, like... I think they do show the Invisible Man there.
Yeah, they do. They have the Invisible Man, the werewolf, the swamp...
Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Creature from the Black Lagoon. Bride of Frankenstein. Frankenstein's monster.
Dracula, and the Mummy all shown there.
Oh yeah, I was trying to figure out what it was because it's like
it is the original. Wrapped. It is the original Mummy movie because I have seen pictures of the black and white one, and that is what it looks like because its head is not wrapped. It's like it has more like bandages falling away from it, so it's kind of more like an emaciated monster. If you could kind of look at it, was that 1930s? It might be. Yes, it's 1930s, where you can see his face completely.
Okay.
Ooh. Or you kind of can. Just the look of it. That's 1932! Hey, I guessed it was the 1930s. Uh-huh. I can be good at identifying things occasionally. With Boris Karloff. God. Anyway, back to the actual game.
Yes.
It's a cooperative strategy game. I mean, that's interesting enough as it is. The fact that it's like kind of just was thrown out here. I mean, I haven't heard much of Ravensburg games. Ravensburg, anyway. So this is like one of the first games I've seen from them. It's an interesting one to throw out there. Oh. They do Castles of Burgundy!
Oh, okay. We know Castles of Burgundy.
Yeah. Okay. So now I know more of, like, that's the only other one that I know about that they've done. But Castles of Burgundy is one that I would say, like, oh, I know that game. It's a good game. Great.
Yeah.
So, yeah, neat that we...
Honestly, what I can see on the board almost makes me think of Dungeon.
Yeah.
The D&D, the old D&D game.
Yeah. I want to see what Board Game Geek says quickly, because I haven't checked 2019. Oh, is there original that's not 2019 because it came up? Now I'm curious if there was an original before now.
Right. I'm not sure.
Anyway, regardless, 1 to 5 players, best with 3, 60 minutes of gameplay. So, in a game like this, you could expect up to 2 hours for your first playthrough. It's got high quality sculpted miniatures of Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, Wolfman, Dracula, Mummy, Invisible Man, Creature from the Black Lagoon. They claim it's not too difficult to learn, but then again, that's the publisher says it's an easy to learn game, so that doesn't tell you jack diddly if whether it is or not.
Right.
For $45 for this, it doesn't look too bad, especially with the set of miniatures. Like a set of miniatures can go, and those are really nice looking miniatures. If these are the correct picture on Board Game Geek, because they're colored miniatures too, so it's very nice. So, definitely a good-looking thing that it's neat.
Yeah, no, it definitely looks interesting. So, I would test this out.
And apparently, like, the characters are characters from the old movies, like the characters you can play. So that's a little, like, hint at things that I like a lot too. So it's like a bunch of characters from all the different, like, various movies, like the more hero types. That's kind of neat.
Oh, I completely agree.
Not, I think, reinventing the wheel when it comes to these old properties and making something that has the feel of your classic 20s, 30s, maybe early 40s horror movies like this is really neat. Like, there's a campiness to watching something like the original Dracula or Mummy or Frankenstein or Creature from the Black Lagoon, but there's also like a timelessness to it also, because it was an invention of the horror of the time, and very well done for the horror of the time, and an interesting little game that captures that but makes it its own unique thing, because it's the idea of, like, hey, a bunch of the heroes from these old movies that are uniting to fight against the monsters. That's neat. Thematically neat. And it makes it feel like a little bit of the Monster Squad without being the Monster Squad. Again, I recommend that movie. Click for 80s. It's very campy. It is very, very campy. Do not take it as a serious horror movie. No! But for something very silly that you might enjoy, yes. So, Horrified, available now. There's one last thing I want to talk about, which I think, Joe, you're gonna be definitely like out of your wheelhouse for this one. And
yes, this is definitely more you.
Yes. I was talking about a anime that is based upon board games. And it had been a manga that started out and it's been ongoing. And it just recently got an anime version. So the thing is, I didn't know about the manga because, not all of them are translated into English ever.
Right.
So take that as a grain of salt that you can find that like that. Let me see if I can find a good promotional poster for this that I can throw up here as an image.
Oh, not that kind of throw up.
No. So the idea, just for a brief, because again, like if I'm going by my format that I would talk about this in Bessem, just for a brief review of the anime, it's the entire idea is it's a slice of life. So if you don't know slice of life, it's just basically like, people usually doing like romance or comedy. So like if you would go to like a like everyday romance novel or everyday like comedy that's based around every day, that is slice of life. Simple as that. That's the easy way to describe it. And this one is all about these group of girls that are in a club that, if you look at the image here, the one works at this board game shop, which is a traditional kind of board game shop that you'd find. Like, the only problem is with modern day local game stores, they oftentimes will have more than just board games around here in America. They will probably have miniatures, they will probably have magic, they will probably have comic books, they will most likely have all of these things in order to keep going as a game store. Sometimes they maybe not have one of those, like, which one's the one, is that Pyramid? Or not Pyramid, the one that's up in north of us.
Oh, that is...
Portal. Portal, I don't think has comic books, but it has all the other stuff. No, it doesn't have comic books?
It might have some, actually.
It's got the older selection. Remember those big boxes, the white boxes?
You're right.
I don't think it has new comic books advertised, but it has old comic books for sale. But it has that, miniatures, it has board games, it has Magic the Gathering, it has all of them. This is showing off a specialty shop of just board games. Okay, that's the first thing. I made a list of a bunch of games I could identify in the first episode going to that one. Arkham Horror, Set, One Night at Werewolf, I'm just going to list them. Bunny Kingdom, which we talked about a little bit, Time Stories, Dixit, Dominion, Descent. That's to name a few.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And they obviously were those board games. You could tell they were those board games. They recreated them. And in fact, that was the one jarring thing a little bit. I felt like looking at the board games, they didn't fit quite well with the general animation style, because they were matching the actual board games a little bit too. They were matching it quite well. You could tell many of them did not have Japanese titles. A few of them did, but I could recognize the boxes. But it was interesting that the thing is, how many permissions did they need to get? Or did they need to get permissions just to have these games? Were these just functioning more as advertisement? I'm curious now. Because many of these were obviously on display. Oh, are you breaking up?
For me for a moment.
I think I'm getting a little bit too.
I wasn't sure if it was you or me.
Oh, goody. It appears to be me again. Something is now, once again, eating up a lot of space on my computer. I think I know what it is. It's these, I'm going to get rid of them. But basically, it was the one Magic Wiki site seemed to be, like, awful. That I had been checking on. And I hadn't gotten rid of it. That's what it appears to be. So I'm going to get rid of some of these tabs. Oh, because I was looking up, like, that they have announced the next 3 sets of Magic, which were kind of interesting. At least what their names are. And all of them seem to be individuals, like Throne of Eldraine. So I'm kind of curious as if we're going to have any more, like, combined storylines in a while here. Because they're doing another Theros set, they're doing another Zendikar set minus Eldrazi. That's going to be interesting. And the Theros set's going to focus on their underworld. And they're doing a new plane in the middle of it that has, like, it's about building your own monsters. So it's a mechanic that represents that. Sounds interesting. Anyway, moving beyond those, because now I have space, like, I function again, computer-wise. Sort of. Ooh. There we go. Give it a second. Fix. There! Now I think we're really good. Should be away from all the problems. I might reset my system. I think there's just something going on with certain sites, because one of those that was just going weird was Board Game Geek. Just was eating up too much space. So I don't know what's going on. I think I might have to reset things, because just to fix up. Maybe Firefox is an update or something, and then it's functioning weirdly because of it. But anyway, as I was talking about, I'd be curious as to how much, if they had to pay anything to advertise these, or if they're functioning as advertisements. Because these are some games that are, like, very obvious here. Granted, like, you see it in a lot of, like, I especially see it in, like, anime. They don't tend to have actual, like, things in it. They tend to have parodies of it, like parodies of McDonald's, or parodies of, like, KFC, or things like that. You can see that in American television, but I feel like American television, it's normally because someone's paying you. I'm curious as if, like, they're getting money for this, or if they had to pay money for it. I don't know the differences between, you know, America and Japan when it comes to advertisements like this. I always felt they were different, in a way, than what we do for advertisements. So, that's one thing. And the fact is, like, it seems like every episode, they play a game, too. So they're advertising a game. Like Marrakesh. They played that in the first one. I've heard about Marrakesh. I have, God, for life of me, never played that game. But I've heard about it before. As, like, a classic European-style board game. So that was kind of interesting because, you know, I could probably, for basics, play Marrakesh now. At least I would have an idea of how to play it. You know, the rules weren't too difficult. So that's, like, it's interesting that way. So I think that's one of those things that's, like, that draws me into this a little couple ways for us to talk about it. Because, A, you know, teaching you how to play some board games, showing off playing them, and then the advertisements of showing off more board games in everyone. And there's only been 2 episodes, and I've seen both of them now, to, like, definitely talk about it here. And I'm just curious more about it now at this point in time about, like, the background stuff, definitely. And also, right. I have no idea how to goddamn play this in Bessem other than you play board games. It's like that would be the Bessem, would be like, hey, we're going to play a board game. Everybody over to Tabletop Simulator! That's the only way, because it's an anime about playing board games. It's the weirdest thing to put into an RPG then. I'm, like, going, like, too many levels deep. I'm going 3 levels. It's already 2 levels deep. What happens when it's an anime about playing a game? And that they show you actually playing the game. Maybe not all of it. It would be, like, describing, like, watching, like, Tabletop with Will Wheaton. It'd be the same way. Like, that's what it is, kind of, in a way, of watching some people play the game. Except it's instead of real people, it's fake people playing it. You know, and learning about the game. Well, what if we're going another layer deep, and we're going into an RPG version of that? Oh my god! No, I'm not gonna I would never do that. I would never hurt my soul like that, of going to Bessem Inception. It'd be too weird.
Reception.
But anyway, I mean, for those of you who are fans out there of board games, like you probably should be if you're watching this, and do enjoy anime, I probably would recommend this one. Again, because you could probably learn about a few more board games. And just seeing the board games was one of the interesting little Easter eggs of, like, what they showed off. I thought that was really neat. Like, to see them. Like, when I was, like, saying, like, hey, wait a second, I recognize that box. It's the goddamn Time Stories box! Because Time Stories box doesn't say anything. And I had to go and Google what the Time Stories box looked like and be like, I was correct! The box doesn't say Time Stories except on the side. It's just that weird, like, white thing with, like, this weird symbol on the one side. You know? Yep. And I'm like, holy crap! Time Stories! I like that a lot!
Oh, boy.
Mm-hmm. No, so it was like, that just, it won a little bit of the day that I could pause that and see that and be like, wow! You know, I guess as something that's a little bit more mainstream, and like, the board game culture, it's not that it isn't mainstream, but I feel like it's still like nothing that's going to be discussed by a lot of people. It's there, it's just not huge in people's like discussion range. It's, I think that's the best way to describe it, you know? It's maybe, it's, and this is a little bit more front and center. Granted, like, I don't know how popular it's going to be for its broadcast in, you know, Japan and US overall, but again, it feels because it is being broadcast on a television somewhere on more mainstream, you're gonna, you know, probably have it more front and center. And, hey. Maybe we should play, the Marrakesh game, sometime.
Okay.
Hey, I learned how to play, I basically learned how to play it. I'd have to like any game that I've watched someone play, I would have to review the rules myself because god awful I would not remember. Anyway, yes. Hey, maybe well, we're doing something different Sunday anyway, and I couldn't put Sundays at the tabletop earlier anyway this week because I'm probably going to go visit my grandmother, which means I should be back by 7. But it means I probably would not be back at the 4 or 5, which I would need to do Sundays at tabletop. Anyway, so yeah, that was the last thing I wanted to talk about because, I didn't expect much from that one until I actually watched an episode. I thought it would have just been like, you know, a lot more simpler things. And then they're playing gosh darn like European style board game. Yeah, you know, you surprised me. So,
haha.
Regular segments, I guess. Then,
yes.
So, I didn't look up a Kickstarter. I'm sorry. This week, did you look up one?
I have a shout out for one that looked interesting.
Yeah,
I'll do it real quick.
Like, we started a little late because I was late on my end, and normally like right before the show, I look through Kickstarters and stuff. So, that's all on me for not finding one this week. You know, that was just. I didn't have time. I looked up... I built the schedule much earlier today because I knew I was going to be busy.
Right. I think it's funny that I'm not really into the Western genre, like movie-wise or books, but game-wise, they're normally kind of fun. Mm-hmm. So I have Hard West, the board game.
Ooh.
They are doing rather well. Their goal is 53,000. They're at 63. And they still have 26 days to go.
Okay.
And they have 414 backers. So they're already funded and probably going to get a lot of their stretch goals done. It's a horror strategy game settled in the Old West for 1 to 6 players. Build a unique 3-dimensional town for each scenario. So you actually are building a 3-dimensional board, which I find cool. That's kind of what...
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what jumped out at me at first. And it's like zombies versus Cowboys. Yeah. It's a 45 to 60 minute game, 12 plus, 1 to 6 players. You can also do a solo version. And you know, right now they have standees. Their stretch goals are going for actual full miniatures. Which is actually... the uncolored miniatures are fully unlocked.
Oh, cool.
They've unlocked double the tombstones and unlock... Butcher miniature is unlocked. They still have a bunch of stuff that they can still unlock. Social goals unlocks a bunch of miniatures.
The thing I'm going to say here I think it was one that, you know, I really do want to ask is, how much did they plan for all this stuff and its, the pricing out for each stretch goal?
Right.
Like, I feel like that's one of those things is if I was to come up with a Kickstarter and come up with a list of stretch goals, I would want to price out each of the stretch goals and make them appropriate.
Well, if you look...
We've learned that from people we've talked to.
But also, if you look at the prices, they're starting... The cheapest version to get the game is $75 US.
Yeah.
Because it's a Canadian company, so...
Yeah.
And that gives you the core box, which includes Hard West board game, standard edition, all stretch goals, all social goals. So this is not a cheap game, but there's a lot of components. You're building a 3D map. It has custom. It looks like it has custom dice with it. So you're getting a lot. So I think it looks like they planned with the stretch goals, considering how much it's going. They're charging that. They'll be able to do it because 75, even with uncolored miniatures, that I think they padded in a bit for that.
They might have padded in a bit for that, but it's also like a lot of the productions and stuff. So it's kind of hard to say the full list of how they figured. Again, it's every company does their own thing, and learning the different stuff too. So it's very interesting to see. I mean,
and the core box is standees instead of miniatures. So if you want the miniatures, actually, it's $113 to get the standard edition.
Oh, okay. I see. The core box and then their standard edition. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they also have an enhanced edition, which that's going to be the standard edition, all stretch goals, all social goals, 24 times extra poker ability cards, 22 times extra double-sided walls, nightmare cards, extra equipment cards, double-sided floors, hard west dice, extra barrels, extra guns, extra miniatures.
They don't break down very much into what everything else does here, and I'm hoping I'm trying to look through here and see if they break down the different components and stuff under the.
If you go further down, they have the components, and then they also had the character setup, character dashboards. The character setup kind of makes me think a bit of the one game I always complain about. Is it Madden? The one that someone turns in the party eventually.
Betrayal.
Betrayal, yeah. The character setup things look a little bit like Betrayal, but they don't have the sliders like Betrayal does, which is a good thing. And those are your gun cards that go to your.
Oh, it's based on a game because this is Hard West, the board game, and Hard West apparently was a board game, or not a board game video. West Steam. Yeah, Hard West was a game. Is a game up on Steam that's been out for a couple of years, and I guess this is a board game version of it. I guess it was
really interesting.
It was a horror western, I'm guessing, just to look it up quickly. Yeah. So, that was all about a bunch of different characters. There was 8 story-driven scenarios, and a lot of other stuff like that. So, interesting. That's where the basis of it comes from. So neat. Definitely.
Yeah.
So,
if you have some extra money and you want something that looks really well done, and you like a horror western setting, this could be a really good pick. The deluxe edition is $301, but you also get a lot of extra stuff.
Yes. So.
And a t-shirt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, cool. Hard West. Our week in tabletop. I think we did a few things, didn't we? We played a little Magic on Saturday.
Yes, we did a little Magic. We also played Alien.
It was Legendary Encounters Aliens version.
Aliens. Yeah, which we did 2 different scenarios because the first one got a little.
I screwed it up. I
wasn't going to point fingers, but yes.
Oh no, I will confess to that. I screwed it up accidentally.
Because you accidentally shuffled the one deck that shouldn't have been shuffled,
nope.
And goals went out the window.
Yes, so we. Not that you couldn't have been successful because of the way I was reading it, but it would have been very unlikely to be successful with what had happened.
Yeah. Because they weren't in order of what we needed to do anymore. But we still ended up losing overall.
Yep.
Because aliens killed us.
Yeah, the second time we were very close, but like it sounds like we could have had some better luck and been better off and been better at fighting them off. But we were getting overwhelmed at the end, basically.
Yeah.
That's what happened. And,
but it was an interesting game. I really want to try one at some point.
Yeah, the Marvel one would be interested, and there's a couple other ones that I do have then, like they have a Predator one, which would be kind of interesting. Like, I think each one have their own unique things. Like, the Marvel one doesn't have the people hidden, so you know what's coming, kind of. It still kind of does the march down the line, but you don't have to worry about that extra thing of, like, revealing them. But I think there's other things about them that make them more unique, and it's like, I was reading, like, in the rules, the differences between them. But
then you have a chance to kind of prepare a little.
Yes. Like,
it's like, okay, we're going to need this for this one.
Mm-hmm. But like this is a little bit more surprising, a little bit more like.
Well, it's kind of the horror shock, jump value of you don't know what's coming because you don't know what's coming around the corner.
Yep. So it's interesting how they differ. Then I could have to say.
Yeah.
Legendary Encounters was very fun. I definitely would recommend checking those out. We'll have to check out more of them. And then the only RPG I did this week was Legacies of Kain. We ended up playing. We
also did Madness. Oh no, we didn't do Madness this week.
We did not do Madness.
Oh, you're right.
I was going to say no then because I was kind of convinced when I was talking to Rachel about it. But then Unfunny One did give a suggestion about what could be going on. But then I left it to a vote for the players, and they were like, three people were like, let's wait. We can wait for Zach. And I was like, fine.
Ended up working in our favor for another reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we worked on some other stuff for gaming then, too.
Yeah.
For upcoming stuff. But no, Legacies, they got out of the Berlin Zoo, but I introduced a new plot point that might affect them in Germany that I was considering bringing in, but because they made a mess of things more than they needed to. Like one of them pulled out their claws and broke stuff down in view of other people. So I brought in the idea of the Second Inquisition, which is a plot point in the 5th edition of Vampire, but I'm changing it a little bit. In 5th edition Vampire, it's much more extreme. It's much more dangerous. It's made vampires much more insular. This is a lesser version of it, basically, that I introduced. So things haven't gotten as bad as they could have yet, or maybe they won't in 5th edition, but still there. And it's more European-based right now. Though I was like, things are going on in America too. They just haven't hit New York yet. They're like more West Coast problems. But, yeah. So that was interesting. And we didn't do records because... two people were not... Well, one person was not feeling really great. Jess was feeling really terrible in the morning, and she was going to take pills and see how she felt for Legacies, and that's why she was better, but not great for Legacies. And then Worm got to rest up, too, because he had fallen down some stairs. So, we had a lot of problems with people on records that morning. So, yeah, no... We started late anyway because Worm had to take his mom somewhere. So, go with her on adventures. Anyway, so that was our week in tabletop. Not a very exciting week, but it was a week nonetheless. We don't have a deeper discussion because we've been kind of dry on review stuff for now. It's I guess our big conventions draw in that kind of stuff for discussions. we'll end our...
Oh, I do want to mention also PAX Unplug has started listing who's going to be there.
Yes. So you can check it out, and we'll probably figure out what's going on for our schedule there soon enough. So, cool there. But remember, if you have a question for us, that if you either want to leave it here in the chat, Twitch chat, we can answer it here. So it's Ask the Table. You can check us out on discussingtabletop@yahoo.com. It's a great place to email us about it. You can, of course, reach us at each of our Twitters, at Dracovin, at JW Seeker81. You can reach us at my Discord, me directly, either message in the Discord, message me directly, or Joe is on that Discord channel, so you can find him there to message him directly if you want to do that. You can leave it in the comments of the YouTube video when this goes up on YouTube, if that's where you're checking this out at. Lots of ways to reach us and check in with us and say hi, and also ask questions. And if it's a question we can answer then and there, we will, or if it's a question that we can feel like we should bring to this program here, we will. Yep. And it could be about pretty much anything nerdy, tabletop related, whatever. We're here to help and add resources. But yeah, hey, that's it for today. It was another great episode. I think, Joe,
just wanted to, yeah.
You have your big announcement about tomorrow.
Yes, so tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, I am going to be diving into the DM seat. For a new game that we're going to do on a bi-weekly basis. It's called Grinding Gears.
Okay, Grinding Gears.
So we have Tantus, who's going to be playing.
Yep.
So he's actually gets to play on his channel.
Yeah, no.
We're going to have Unfunny One joining, Tiv joining, Blaze, and then someone new for us, Lightning Dragon.
Yes. Who, again, I've said I'm a little familiar with Lightning Dragon. I just...
Well, new to the channel, at least.
Oh, new to the channel, definitely. I think I might have done something as a one-shot with him one time, but it's hard to remember because my memory's awful. If people, right. For those of you out there who know, my memory sucks. But that should be 7 to 10 tomorrow. I'll probably throw out an announcement on Discord, Twitter later on today, just giving a full, information of like, hey, pay attention, this is going to be happening.
Yep, and it's a 5e D&D game that we're starting in, so...
Yes. So
hope to see everyone there.
Yeah, definitely. And then it should be regular schedule for all the games this week. Wait. Madness, I think, is up in the air, isn't it? Because... No, that's 2 weeks from now. That is 2 weeks from now.
She gave us a very big heads up.
Yeah, well, Rachel gave us a heads up about 2 weeks from now. She wouldn't be free. But if we get to a point in time that it doesn't matter if she's there or not, it's sort of like, unfortunately, you're in a point in time where it might matter about Zach, unfortunately.
Right.
So we'll see. But no, we should be on schedule for all the games next week, theoretically. If anything happens and changes, I will let people know. Scripted videos should be hopefully back out on the YouTube side next week. I've got them mostly prepared for it, so I'll just have to finish some things up probably a little later on today, and maybe tomorrow evening or something when I get back from my adventures. So, That's it. But, hey, thanks for joining us today. It was another great episode. We talked about a lot of cool stuff. And we hope to see you here next week. So, have a great one, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.